What is going on, everyone? We are back for another edition of the PGA DFS model. We're here for the Farmers Insurance. It is a balmy 20 degrees here in Utah. So, yeah, going to be nice watching some golf and some warm weather climate in California. We got San Diego on tap this week, Torrey Pines North and South courses. Should be a fun week. Quick recap of what was it last week? The American Express. Ended up having a really good week. Sung Jae was in my main lineup, ended up missing the cut. He was also my one and done pick, so that wasn't great. But still, the rest of my main lineup, 3 guys in the top 10, the rest of the guys in the top 30. Ended up having, a nice little 6x the bankroll that I had in play, which is always good. Didn't hit an outright bet. We're still looking for our first outright win of the year, but we're going to keep at it this week. Now, if you like course rotations, you're going to love this week. Last week, we had 3 courses in play. This week, we have 2 in play. So golfers are going to play the North course and the South course for 1 round on Thursday and Friday. And then the cut's going to be made. And then they'll play the South course on Saturday and Sunday. Now, these courses couldn't be any different. They're very close in proximity, but that's about it. So the South course, par 72, nearly 7,800 yards. The longest course that's routinely played on the PGA Tour. Extremely difficult, always near the top 10 in terms of difficulty on the PGA Tour, and that includes majors. The fairways are narrow, 28 yards wide on average. The green's very small, 5,000 square feet on average. So the fairways are tough to hit. The greens are tough to hit. The rough is extremely thick, and anytime you get really difficult courses, distance is going to come into play, especially when you're going to have a lot of long holes like we have here. So driving distance definitely going to be an important factor this week. I'm also looking at strokes gained on long and very long courses, strokes gained on difficult, very difficult courses. You can find all those filters on the rabbit hole at BetSperts. We do have a sign-up link if you want to check that out. It is my favorite stat engine to use each and every week. So yeah, we got that. Then the North course is a par 72, less than 7,300 yards. So it's about 500 yards shorter than the North course or South course, and it is a lot easier. Typically one of the 10 easiest courses on the PGA Tour. The greens on the North course have bent grass, while the greens on the South course have Poana. And very big difference in terms of how many golfers like those surfaces. I would say Poana is an acquired taste. Most golfers on the PGA Tour do not like these greens. So going to have to be patient. And yeah, I think just looking at, bogey avoidance, driving distance, course history, all going to be important factors this week. Strokes gained off the tee, I have it weighted at 6%. And then I have driving distance at 6%, which is going to be the highest mark that I'll have all year, maybe other than the Masters. Strokes gained approach, I have it at 10%. The expected metric, I have it at 2%. Typically bump this up a little bit higher, but again, only 3 of the 4 rounds are going to be played at the South course. So guys that I expect to gain the most strokes on approach based on their expected yardage on approach shots: Shane Lowry, Andrew Putnam, Tony Finau, Kurt Kitayama, Grayson Sigg. Now this is just approach, so I wouldn't put too much stock into it, but those are just guys that I expect to gain the most based on where they're going to be hitting their approach shots from. 3% to around the green, that does feel a tad low, but I just ran out of percentages to kind of put around in the model. 8% stroke gain putting. This is a week where tee to green matters a little bit more than putting, and we've seen Luke Bliss win here before. We've seen Will Zalatoris almost win here before. So anytime you get a really difficult course, tee to green tends to be a little bit more important than putting. When you get into those birdie fests, then putting matters a little bit more. Golfers obviously have to putt well if they're going to win, but you can win here while gaining 1 or 2 strokes putting. That's usually not the case when the winning score is like 3,500 par. Winning score should be around 1,500 par this week. 3% to birdie or better, 3% to bogey avoidance, 5% to course history. This might seem a little bit low, but some of the course history is also going to come from strokes gained in California over the last 3 years, strokes gained on difficult courses the last 3 years, strokes gained on long par 72s the last 3 years. So there are some overlap between these 3 metrics and the course history metrics. So really, I would say the course history is probably closer to 8 to 10% with these 3 columns here included as well. So let's look at golfers that are the best in California over the last 3 years: Max Homa, Zalatoris, Jason Day, Tigala, and Mark Hubbard. Guys that gain the most strokes on very difficult courses: Hideki, Homa, Ludwig Gobert, Shane Lowry, Sungjae M. And then on long par 72s, Hideki, Aberg, Keegan Bradley, Will Zalatoris, and Siwoo Kim. For the top percent finishes, I have it at 5% for each. Again, if you are playing cash games, you might want to bump up this column here. If you're focusing solely on tournaments or bets, you might want to focus on these two columns here. I like to have a pretty even distribution. Short-term form, I have it at 4% since golfers haven't played a ton recently, especially like in the fall and in the winter. Midterm at 5%, long-term at 6%, and field strength at 11%. Let's quickly talk about the field, and then we will get out of here. At the very top of the model is Ludwig Oberg. He's my favorite play of the week. Since coming back from injury, back-to-back top 6 finishes. He was T9 here in his debut. Kind of reminds me of when John Rahm played this event. He nearly won here in his first or second try, and then he won it the next year. I can see that happening for Oberg. My favorite spend of the week, but certainly no issue with Hideki Matsuyama. He has gained some speed. His driving distance numbers have been a little bit better recently than in the longer term. And obviously one of the better iron players, one of the best on difficult courses, long courses, you name it. Sungjae, I don't know, man. He had that really bad round last week. He was 5 over par on the stadium course and then just couldn't make enough birdies over his final 2 days to make the cut. But other than that, he's been a top 12 machine over the last 6 months. I don't think a lot of people are going to play him, even though we have his ownership projection at 23%. I think most people are going to gravitate towards one of these other two guys above 10K. Lowry's a good tournament play. Doesn't play here often, but tends to play difficult courses well, tends to play majors well, and this is obviously a major venue. Love Tigala this week, one of my favorite plays on the board. Went to Pepperdine. Always seems to play well in California. He's a guy that he's long off the tee, he's good on approach, and he's a good putter. Should be very comfortable on these Poana greens. Tony Finau's got the course history, so he loves this play. Obviously plays well on the West Coast from Utah. I think he lives in Arizona now. But he's only played 2 events in like 3 months because of the injury. I'm still a little bit worried about rest. I'll play some of them in tournaments, but he's not going to be a core play for me this week. Love Taylor Pendrith, bomber putter combo. He's also pretty good on approach. Hard not to like him. T9 here at last year. The only thing about him is he's typically not great on difficult courses or in California, but I'm willing to overlook it given the course fit. McNeely's another California guy. He's been playing some great golf, picked up his first win in the fall. Keegan Bradley's been playing really well recently. Doesn't necessarily have the distance that I'm looking for, but he's actually got more speed than you might expect, especially over the last few months. So maybe you can look to Keegan. Aaron Wright doesn't have the distance, but he does have accuracy and good long iron play. So that's kind of the way to make up for a lack of distance if you're really good from 200-plus yards and you can hit fairways. Love Jason Day, nearly won last week. He's one of those golfers that when he's in form, he tends to string together a lot of high finishes, and he has some of the best course history of anybody in the field, especially if you look at past 5 years. Like before 2020, he was awesome at this course. So I certainly don't mind looking to Jason Day. I thought about betting him outright, didn't end up getting there. The outright bets that I do have in this week, Tigala at 30-1, Pendrith at 35-1, and then Sam Stevens at 100-1 if you want to tell me on those. We're going to hit one soon. Moving down, Grazerman's been playing great. I mean, the numbers last week were good. Another top 10 finish. Missed the cut here last year, but I like that he's seen these courses for the second time around. I think he will play much better this time. The guys that I won't be playing are my usual favorites. Ben Griffin, I always play him on the shorter courses. Eric Cole, I always play him on the shorter, easier courses. I just don't like him on these very long and difficult courses. As you can see, Eric Cole's 0 for 2 here. Ben Griffin missed the cut here last year. Even if they do make the cut, I just have a hard time seeing them contend with them not being very good off the tee. As you can see here, Eric Cole. Kind of the same thing for Harry Hall, too. He's 0 for 3 here. So the guys that are just bad off the tee, that rely so much on approaching in, just not great on very long, difficult courses. So going to be avoiding them. I like Hostler. I like Siwoo Kim a little bit. Love Sam Stevens. Like I mentioned, he's my favorite point per dollar option on the board. 7,300 is a really good price point for him. And his recent form would be a lot better, but he lost 4.4 strokes here, 4.1 strokes here putting. And he's typically a good putter, especially on Poana, 7th in the field. So I think it's a great spot for him. I like Dietrich, Zalatoris. I can get down with some Zalatoris. I know his form has been really spotty, and he's not a guy that's going to project well just because his numbers, over the last 18 months have not been good. Coming back from injury, all that stuff. But man, he loves difficult courses. He loves this course. He's showing some form, which I do like. Clanton's a great amateur. Certainly no issue getting there in tournaments. I like Yeager coming off a third place finish, and he was third here last year. Gim, I don't love Gim, but I don't hate him. I could see him making the cut, finishing like T40. That's not really going to do you a lot in tournaments, but maybe for cash games, he's a guy to look to. I'll play some Homa in tournaments. I know the form has been really bad. I know he's been one of the worst off the tee recently, but he loves California, loves this event, won here in 2023. Vegas is a bomber. I'll play a bunch of him. Not going to be playing a lot of Hubbard because he's bad off the tee. Not going to be playing a lot of JJ Spawn because he's not very long off the tee. Kurt Kitayama will probably be fading. Patrick Rogers went to Stanford. A couple top 10s here recently. He's got plenty of speed, so I'll play some of him. Not going to be on lower. He came through for me last week with a third place finish. I'll play a little bit of Taylor Moore. Kevin Yu, one of my favorite tournament plays on the board. Look at this numbers off the tee. One of the best in the field. Also has plenty of distance, and he was 6th here last year, so that makes a lot of sense for me. Kim has picked up some speed. I mean, he's top 40 in this field in driving distance now, which is pretty crazy for a guy that used to be one of the shorter hitters on the PGA Tour. T43 last week. He's made his last 3 cuts here. I'll play Michael Kim. Matthew Pavon kind of won this event out of nowhere last year. Not sure if I'll go back to that well. Going to be off of Putnam. Probably going to be off of Meissner, English, Wallace. Chan Kim does have, he's not as good off the tee as I thought. He's much better around the green and on approach. So probably not going to be playing a ton of him. There were a few other guys that I wanted to mention that are just bombers. So let's look at the guys that have gained. So Toasty, I can see him playing well this week. We talked about Pendrith, Molinax. Coming off of T18 last week, he was T31 here in 2023. I like Bramlett. He's made a lot of cuts here. He's one of those guys that's just a terrible putter, but he's pretty good at everything else. And yeah, those are the guys I wanted to mention. Maybe an interesting bounce back for Fishburne, who was really bad last week. But yeah, I want to thank everyone for joining me. And hit that thumbs up button if you don't mind. Leave a comment if you have any questions. I'll try to check those each and every week. Hop in the RG Discord. It's free. It's fun. Just way to sweat and talk some golfers. And good luck this week. Catch you back here next week.